Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we have a Ford Bronco with a modular bumper, and we're installing a bull bar with 5 80-watt dual function cubes.
So first thing we're going to do, we're going to actually assemble the lights themselves so that way we can install it on the bull bar. And we're going to set up the lights and install the cradle mount so that way it gives them an attachment point. Each light gets attached by 4 of these Allens. If we look at the cradle and install it, the large bolt goes in right in the center. And then the smaller Allen bolt goes right behind it. Now we're going to install the assembled lights onto the bull bar before we mount the bull bar onto the vehicle. We're going to go ahead and feed a bolt through the cradle. And we're going to use a nut and washer to secure it. Now let's go ahead and flip this over, and we're going to make sure we have it aligned so that way we can make the final tie downs. So you can actually gauge these based on the slits of the bull bar. So I'm aligning it down the center so that way the bolt is by the center as well as the light. In this kit, we're using the 80-watt M&R pods. I strongly recommend utilizing the 30-amp auxiliary switch to run power to the white function of the pods themselves. The amber can be placed on any other switch. Because you guys only have one 30-amp switch, I want to make sure that we designate it onto this 400-watt setup. Now that we've assembled all the lights and attached them to the bull bar, let's worry about the wiring. I'm going to flip this over. Each light comes with 3 wires. If you look here, there's a red, white, and black. The red is the power to the white light. The white is the power to the amber DRL function. And the black is the ground. What we're going to do, we're going to use a supplied harness in order to connect the lights to the harness to the auxiliary switches. So if you see there's a Y connection, the length of the lights themselves is not long enough to all fuse together. So I made a little Y intersection and kind of piggybacked off of it. Let me show you how I crimp it. So the way I fuse these lights would be 2 of these on the passenger side and 3 of them on the driver's side. The 2 power cables, they're going to be the black and the red. I'm going to try to see if I can source different color wire in order to make it easier to connect it, but in the meantime it's only black and red. It's easier to go red to red. So red's going to be our white light. Oops. Now we're going to go ahead and crimp that. And because the black on the light itself is the ground, the white is the power of the DRL function. We're going to actually connect that to the black source on the harness. Okay. And then we're going to follow this wire, same thing on these. So the red bundle, which is the 3 red wires from the 3 lights, I'm going to go ahead and crimp them here. Oops. And then the white bundle of all the lights is going to get crimped to the black cable. So the only thing we're left with is the ground, the black wires on this bundle, and the black wires on this bundle. We're going to do similar things but these two power sources are going to go to the auxiliary switches. So now that we did the two power sources to the lights, let's do the same thing with the ground. As you can see, we have the same Y separation on this side of the lights, and we have an eyelet on the other end. I'll show you exactly where I grounded on the vehicle. We're going to fuse the black wires, which is the ground of these lights, and crimp it. I usually like to double crimp so that way they don't come out. We're going to carry this over and piggyback the white cables from these three lights. So as you can see, I'm fusing these together. And now we have the grounding strap, as well as the two power sources that we're going to carry over to the auxiliary switch hookups. So now that we have everything connected, let's shrink wrap these connections to provide a watertight seal, and then we can go install it on the Bronco. You can either use a heat gun, a lighter, or a hair dryer in order to warm these up. When these get heated, they shrivel up and create a watertight connection. Now we're going to use some zip ties in order to hide all the wiring underneath that rail. And this is how it's going to look on the Bronco. Now let's go to the Bronco and install this. Alright, now we're at the Bronco. The first step is to actually remove the accessory bolts because we're going to reuse them on the bull bar. I just loosen them with a wrench and then I get them out by hand. Now we're going to go ahead and reinstall the bull bar using the same bolts that we have taken out in the previous step. Now that we got the bull bar installed with the lights, it's time for wiring. The only thing we have to connect, it's a ground for the lights, as well as the two power sources that we're going to extend to the auxiliary switches. Let's do the ground first. Alright, so what we're going to do right now, let's find a good ground for this. You can use any of the bolts from behind on the modular bumper. The one I like the inside of this bolt here. What we can do, we can put an eyelet on this bolt, and because it's an M8 pitch, we can actually put this nut behind it and you won't even be able to see it. So let me show you how I do it. I'm going to feed the wire. I'm going to put the eyelet onto the bolt itself, and I'm going to thread this bolt after the eyelet. Now we have to feed this wire underneath the grill, and we're going to pull it out in the engine bay. So let's see where it comes out. I'm going to feed it to the auxiliary switches, and then what we're going to do, there's a bundle of cables here. All of these wires are associated with auxiliary switches that you have inside the cab. The first switch that we're going to use will be the switch number 1. Switch number 1 is a yellow wire, and that's going to give power to the white light. That's that 30 amp fuse that I was talking about. Hey, if you don't know which switch is what amperage, you can check it in your owner's manual. We're going to go to features. Owner's manual, and we're going to search for aux switches, AUX, and then search. identifying the exact, and here's the diagram. So we're gonna use switch number 1, which is a 30 amp fuse for the white light, and we're gonna use switch number 6, which is the last one, 10 amp fuse, and that's the one with the yellow and the orange. So solid yellow switch 1, yellow and orange is going to be switch 6, and that's going to be our DRL. It's also not wrong to use any of the other ones. I like to separate the white lights and the ambers and the DRL functions, so that way they're on separate sides of my aux switches. So based on my choosing, the white light does have to be on the 30 amp fuse, but the amber DRL can be on any of the 2 to 6. And here are the switches, 1 through 6. So we're going to use switch number 1 for the white function of the lights, and switch number 6 as the DRL. So if you see from the bundle of aux switches, we've located the solid yellow as well as the yellow with the orange tracer. I'm going to go ahead and strip them. So here I've taken out the 2 wires. Here's the solid yellow, which is a little thicker. That's a 30 amp one. And the yellow with the orange tracer, that's going to be our 10 amp one, which is switch number 6. So what we're going to do now, we're going to put a crimp connector on here. I'm going to double crimp it just because the crimp connectors, the wire is fairly thin, so I don't want it to come out. And then we're going to attach these crimp connectors, the one we just did, to the power wires of the cubes themselves. So the red we identified as the white light is going to go to yellow, and that's going to provide switch number 1 to the white light. And then the black, we're going to connect that to the yellow wire with the orange tracer, and that's going to provide the amber DRL to switch number 6. Okay, now that we have it connected, let's go ahead and try it out and see if we did it correctly. Switch number 1, that's the white light, and this is the amber DRL. Wow, the DRL feature is beautiful. Let's wait till it gets a little bit darker, so that way we can really see the effect. Thanks for watching, guys, how to install the bull bar with 5 80-watt lights with amber DRL. I hope you guys love the product, and tune in for more videos. Hope to see you soon. Now I'm going to throw a couple of zip ties, make the wiring a little more neat, and go for a ride.